Hi, I'm Michelle Pegler of Gingy Makes Quilts. I am here doing my annual quilt trunk show to show off all of the quilts that I made in 2023. And I'll just tell you a little bit about each one. I'll be able to show the ones that I still have, and I'll show pictures of ones that I gifted or sold or gave away. There might be a cat wandering through, who knows, but let's get started. So the first quilt I made in 2023 is a pattern that I was really excited to try by Emily Dennis of Quilty Love. It's called Star Pop, and I made this for my son who's 3 years old. We actually went to a quilt show last year where he saw this quilt made out of this fabric collection called On the Go by Stacy Itsu. And he just begged and begged, "Mama, please make me a quilt that has with cars on it." And so I got I think I used a layer cake for this to make him a Cars quilt in the Star Pop pattern. I ended up picking kind of a light blue as the solid for all the stars that I thought went really well with all of these fabrics. Just overall, the prints on here are really cute. It's cars and construction trucks and airports, things like that. So he sleeps with this on his bed and he absolutely loves it. I went with a yellow cuddle fabric because I thought yellow went well with all the colors on the front. And then I did a quilting design, I think it's called Cornerstone, but it reminded me of a tire tread. So I thought that that would be perfect, and I love how it looks. The next quilt I made this year was another quilt from Layer Cakes. I made a free pattern called Layer Cake Lemonade that is on Fat Quarter Shop's website. I actually had this layer cake that I had won through a giveaway on Fat Quarter Shop, and the fabric collection was called Sanctuary, and I wanted to do a fun, quick, easy pattern with that layer cake with the intention of selling it or donating it to charity. So I made the Layer Cake Lemonade pattern, and it is so quick and really fun, and I love how it turned out, so I might use that pattern again in the future for something that I want to keep. On that one, I quilted it with one of my favorite pantographs called Nesa's Feather. It's just like a really nice feathery, swirly design that looked really good on those fabrics and also on the light gray cuddle fabric on the back. Next quilt I made was another pattern by Emily Dennis called Lucky Log Cabins, and I picked a ton of solids. So I picked some solids that I had as scrap from another project, and then I went to the store to try and like fill out kind of a rainbow of solids. And I wasn't really sure how I was going to do the colors on it at first. I actually started just sewing together random colors, like, because you start by sewing strip sets, and I just started pairing them up randomly. I got through a bunch of them, and I realized I didn't think I was going to like it with them all random like that. So I actually, sorry if my camera is moving, my cat has decided to bump the computer. So I actually picked out all the ones I had sewn together and decided to try doing some sort of rainbow order, which meant I laid out all the strips in piles in rainbow order. And then I tried to make strip sets of 5 colors together in rainbow order, but kind of was skipping some of the colors so that each strip set was a little bit different from the others. And I really liked how that was looking. And the final quilt layout also, I kind of started in the top left with more of the yellows, greens, oranges, and then had it flow through all the reds, pinks, purples, down to like the blues at the bottom corner. And I love, love, love how it turned out. So I was really happy that I took that probably 3 hours to pick out all of my stitches and redo the color placement, because this rainbow Lucky Log Cabins is one of my favorite quilts I've ever made. I just love it. I put a like dark teal cuddle fabric on the back. I think it's called Mallard. And then I quilted it with a pretty geometric design called Abacus. So it had tight quilting that just added a nice overall texture. And I was so proud of myself because the Abacus quilting design has a lot of 45-degree lines on it, and when those would just run perfectly parallel to my diagonal seams on the quilt, I just felt amazing about how well I was able to piece it together and keep everything square. I ended up selling that to somebody who saw pictures of it and then said they really wanted to buy it from me. I was originally going to auction it off for charity this year, but I just sold it to a friend instead. The next quilt I finished this year that I didn't start this year was the Quilting is My Therapy Build-A-Quilt from 2020. So I had it pieced, waiting to be quilted for a long time, and I kept going back and forth on whether I wanted to try doing custom quilting on it or just do a pantograph. Ultimately, I decided to just do a pantograph so I could get it done, and I did again. I think I chose the Nasa's feather design on that one because it's one of my favorites. I thought it would look good with all the light pastel fabrics, and it does. I also put a light gray on the back of that and gave it to one of my best friends. I surprised her with it. She was really funny. Every time I would show her any of the blocks in progress, she would always say, "Oh my gosh, I love all those fabrics, they're so beautiful." And so I was kind of secretly planning to surprise her with it once it was all done, and she was very surprised. I gave it to my friend Melissa, and she loves to cuddle with it on her couch. Another quilt I was excited to make this year was the Stronger Together quilt along through Fat Quarter Shop that they do every February to celebrate Black History Month. I've participated in one of the years, I think a couple years ago, and then this year I have a quilting friend who have actually had long arm a couple of my quilts, Michelle Ramsey of Quilts Made with Love. So she was the pattern designer this year for the Fat Quarter Shop Stronger Together quilt, and she actually was able to send kits to a few people, and she sent me one, which I was so excited about. So she sent me a kit to make this quilt, and it is beautiful. I love the colors because I always love teal and pink, obviously. The pattern is really unique though, how it comes together. So it makes this mountain design with stars. And so there are blocks that help you make the mountains, but then the star blocks, and they're all kind of a rectangular shaped block. So it's a really unique design. Most of the fabrics in here are the Speckled fabric collection by Rashida Hillman Cole. And they are just like so buttery soft, and I love the speckled pattern on every one. And then I decided to put a navy cuddle on the back and quilt it really tight with the Midnight Sparkle pantograph. I decided just to go crazy on how small I made this. I've used it a few times before. It's very small, and I love it. So it looks great on all the front fabrics. And then what the really cool surprise was for me on the back is that you can actually see little white dots where it makes those dense little stars on the front. So every time it makes one of these stars, it has to go over that middle spot, 8 times. And that means that on the back, there's quite a bit of thread there in the middle of every star. And I love how it looks on the back, where it kind of looks like a starry night sky with those light quilting threads sticking out from the navy. I might sell this, or I might just continue to keep it because I love it so much. Not sure. The next one I worked on this year and finished was part of Fat Quarter Shop's Sewcialites 2.0. So I think that one started in 2022 because it's like a 9-month program with a block every week. So I was working through that with a fabric collection by Layla Boutique that I was really in love with called Flower Pot. So I finished that one up. I put a pantograph on it called Rosemary, which I was really excited to try out on something. And then I used like a nice rust orange color cuddle fabric on the back, which looks amazing. So that one's really beautiful. I think we'll probably try to auction it off or sell it somehow next year. But right now it is just on display at my mom's house in her on her bed. The next quilt I finished this year was another free layer cake pattern from Fat Quarter Shop called Layer Cake Tumble. So I had bought a layer cake of Sunburst fabric collection, which is just the most fun, like bright oranges and blues and yellows and pinks. And there's like beach balls, and there's women on beach towels laying out in the sun. So I've always kind of had it in my mind that I wanted to make an outdoor quilt with those fabrics. and I wanted to make it pretty large. So I actually amended the layer cake tumble pattern so that it could be, I think it's like 8 feet by 8 feet, something like that. It is very big and quite heavy because I put a canvas back on it so that it could be an outdoor quilt that you can put on like damp grass and the water won't soak through while you're sitting on it. And then on the inside, I put a jersey sheet instead of normal batting so that, again, it wouldn't be so thick. It would be more like a blanket that you'd want to use outside and sit on for picnics. So I love how the pattern turned out. This is another one where it took me a while to figure out how I wanted to lay out the fabrics. I did a couple of layouts on the ground in my living room to see what I liked best, and I landed on one that kind of does a diagonal color fade, which I think looks really good. So I'll try and hold it up, but it is really big. So there's a little bit of it. So it's color fade with the pinks all through the middle, and then it goes to the yellows, oranges, and blue in these opposite corners. For the quilting, my daughter had an idea to put bright orange quilting thread on it, and I actually love it. And I did a pretty low density Soho quilting design because, again, I didn't want to make it even heavier. It'll show up very well because this has been washed already, but you can kind of see the quilting there. And then on the back, from Rifle Paper Company fabrics, and this is the canvas. I love this print so much, and I think the colors of the lemons and oranges and flower blossoms go so perfectly with the Sunburst collection. So we've already taken that to the beach and on picnics, and during the summer I like to just keep it in my car so it's ready to go all the time. Oh, I have a cat friend now. The next quilt that I made this year was a baby quilt for one of my best friends who had a baby last year, and I wanted to give him, I called it a baby quilt, but it's actually more like a quilt that he could use on a bed when he moves to a bed. So I gave it to him for his first year birthday this year. I made the violet quilt pattern by Kitchen Table Quilting, and I had these fabrics that I had bought a while ago called Livin on the Hedge collection by Dear Stella Designs, and the little scenes on some of those prints with the little moose playing music and bears and raccoons, and then there's foxes jumping through, they're just adorable. And I was so scared to cut into them because I really liked how they looked on the back corners. I was like, oh no, I can't possibly cut into this fabric, it's too beautiful. And then what I realized is when I started cutting into it, I liked it even more because I had to cut it into, squares and rectangles for the pattern. And like when you would just get this one little square snippet of the bigger print, I just loved those little scenes where you might only see one animal or two animals together. Any way you cut it, it was going to be adorable. So I was able to put those into the violet quilt pattern with a pretty bright blue background fabric that I was unsure would look good in the end, but I actually love how it turned out. And then I put a light blue cuddle on the back there as well, and used the rosemary quilting because my friend, she had said she liked that quilting design on something else. And so I was like, well, that's going on your son's quilt. And again, they just went really well with the forest theme because it's leafy and organic. And then another quilt I finished this year that I'm so proud of because I put so many hours into it is another Build-A-Quilt from Quilting Is My Therapy. It's the one that I think started in 2021. So again, it's taken me a few years to make it. Just the piecing takes forever because every special quilt block is so intricate. But then the quilting, I did custom quilting on this. I probably put 100 to 200 hours of quilting time into it between, deciding all the designs and then quilting it out on my long arm. I actually made one video or a couple videos showing my whole process for that. In case you're interested to go watch it, I can put the link here. So this quilt is one that I put in the Oregon State Fair this year, and it actually won a blue ribbon in the experienced division for best quilting. So that was exciting when I saw that. I'll show you the front and the back because you can actually see the quilting really nicely on the back. So here's the whole thing. So this fabric collection is designed by Angela. It's called Holly Jolly, and it's kind of a modern take on Christmas. So the colors are non-traditional. Instead of green and red, it's kind of blue and red. But if you get up close, you can see it does have all the, ornaments and snowflakes and reindeers that you would be used to seeing in a Christmas quilt. So I just had a blast figuring out all the different quilting designs for each one of these special blocks, as well as how to quilt the surrounding setting portions. I kind of mixed dot-to-dot designs with a lot of free motion designs. One of the things I'm most proud of is the checkerboarding I did. So like these big pinkish red triangles, that's all one piece of fabric, but I made it look like a checkerboard with just the quilting. And you can see it on the back. On the back I put this sparkly red cuddle fabric I've used before, and so there you can see some of that checkerboard quilting. But very dense quilting, and the fabrics that Angela Walters designs and sells are so soft. I just love this quilt so much. This one's going to stay in the family for sure. Very special. And then the last quilt I finished this year was the Sparrows pattern by Pen and Paper Patterns. I surprised my friend Chris, who is very into birds. I had bought this bird fabric bundle and was thinking I should make him a pattern out of it. I was thinking other options, but then I saw the Sparrows quilt pattern and realized, well, that just has to be it. I have to make a bird quilt out of bird fabrics. And then I was also considering quilting it with a bird pantograph or something that was bird reminiscent, but I thought that might be too cutesy. So I actually ended up using a more like modern geometric pattern that's called Starlight Panto, which I really liked how it looked on the overall quilt. And I used a kind of a dark green grunge fabric as the background, which I think looks really good with all of those Birdwatch fabrics from the collection. So that was everything I finished this year. And then I was going to give you a sneak preview to something I'm working on right now because I will likely sell it and I won't have it to show you next year. But this is the one that I'm really excited about right now that I have about half put together pieced. I'm making another version of the Star Pop quilt by Emily Dennis. She has two versions. She has Star Pop and she has Star Pop 1 or Star Pop 2. I forget which is which, but this is one of the Star Pops, and I made the other one as the Cars quilt for my son. So I have the top half pieced. It's going to be pretty big. It's going to be like a twin size, and then the bottom half is going to be more of those other rainbow colors like teals and blues and purples. This is using the Planetarium fabric collection, which is kind of space themed. My favorite print is the comets or asteroids one right there that's shown in the orange, but there's also, sunshines, and then there's this fabric where it's phases of the moon. So really neat. I picked this bright fuchsia accent fabric to be all the stars because the fabric collection didn't really have any reds or pink. And I thought that having pink as the accent color would look really good on all the other rainbow colors. And I'm loving it. So hopefully I can give this away, or I might end up keeping it because I just love it too much. We will see. So that is everything I was planning to talk through and show you today. I wish I had more to show you. Nope, not gonna say it. So that is everything I was going to show you today. I have a lot more quilts in my queue and just gonna continue working through it. There are always too many quilts I wanna make and too little time, but just hanging in there and keep working through them. So thanks so much for watching, and if you wanna check out any of the other videos, click some links below. Thanks.